Joseph, welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Chisha Zed.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Unfaithful wife interview, Kiera. Why do we have to do this? Well, because people are at least guaranteed that everything we're about to listen to will be filtered out through some coffee. And it matters. This video is brought to us by Soft White Underbelly. Shout out to them. This is the second video I've actually reacted to of theirs. The first one was of an attorney. Now, an unfaithful wife. Let's get it.
Or Kiera.
Yes, hi.
Kiera, where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Northwest Indiana, a very small town called Griffith, 2 miles by 2 miles. Little town.
Tell me about your childhood growing up.
I had both parents in the home. It was a fairly okay childhood. I had my dad in the home, but my theory is he stopped paying attention to me when I got a mind of my own. So him and I haven't been close my whole life. We are now. But my mom is my rock, my absolute best friend and soulmate.
You're close to your mom.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So right off the bat, daddy issues. I'm just going to call it as I see it, guys. Let's keep watching. We're doing this together. Let's go. Comment down below what you guys think as the video is going.
She's my best friend.
What would you say is the roughest part of your childhood?
The roughest part of my childhood was probably watching my parents get into some legal trouble when I was very young. I didn't even find out what they did until I was 15 or 16, but the house got raided and I watched my parents get taken away. So
what were they doing?
They were drug dealers. So
damn.
But everybody's clean and sober now and doing really well.
Good. How far did you go in school?
Oh, I graduated. I graduated from my local high school in Griffith.
What kind of kid were you in high school?
I was a good kid until I turned 16. And then I started smoking weed, skipping school, doing drugs, drinking. I actually got expelled December of my senior year for having Xanax on me. And my mom had called the school and told them. So I did get arrested. I just turned 18 at 18 for having drugs at school.
This story just got real very quickly. I'm surprised that she labeled her upbringing and childhood as a good childhood, considering that both of her parents sold drugs. I mean, you hear like one parent was involved in criminal activity. You're like, okay, whatever. Both of her parents? Let's keep listening.
And then I kind of continued to get arrested on and off and crash multiple vehicles on drugs until I turned 21 when I got clean for good.
For good?
For good.
Good for you.
Yeah, been 12 years.
That's great.
Thanks.
And where's your life gone since then?
It's better now. I mean, I'm a mom. I have 2 children. I'm a provisional community association manager for HOAs. I live in Reno. I just have the best boyfriend I could ever ask for. So it's been different, but where I'm at right now is good.
What have you been through between the boyfriend and moving or leaving high school? So
I moved to Reno with a man that I had known in person for just a month or so. I met him through the company I was working for. He ended up not being the nicest man ever, but I followed him to Reno, and I was with him for almost a decade.
So she's talking about her ex-husband here. Let's keep listening. It sounds like to me.
But I probably wasn't the best wife to him. So we got divorced in July of 2020, I believe.
You were married how many years?
We were married 6, together almost 10. Yeah.
You guys had problems.
Yes, we both had our own sets of problems. Like I mentioned, he wasn't very kind. So he did lay
We got
hands on
that.
me, be very rude to me, make terrible comments, call me names, put me down. But then
I'm sorry, guys. I talked over that. She said he did lay hands on me. That's unfortunate. Let's keep listening.
I was unfaithful a few times and ended up mothering children from those men on my husband.
So you were married to your husband, but you were having children with other men.
I was. And he raised them as his own and knew them to be his own until the divorce.
How did that news come out?
My lawyer had to use language in what we wanted to kind of make it a point to say that, like, he may not be the dad. You know, like, I don't even remember what word she used, but it was a word that kind of made his lawyer be like, we should probably do a DNA test on these children. And he did.
Because you were looking to keep it quiet?
I wouldn't say that.
Yes, you were. Yo, this is crazy. Notice how she started this conversation painting him in a bad light. Wanted you to definitely know that he was a mean guy and that he's laying hands on her. And God knows what that means. Guys, listen, I'm trying to be sensitive here. I really am. But after this Jonathan Major situation, we see men getting accused of assault and reckless behavior because they were fighting over a phone, and he bruised the woman because he's the stronger gender of the two, him losing everything he's worked for. I'm not so quick to believe that she didn't vaguely mention him laying hands on her to, purposefully live it up to the audience so that they could imagine the worst possible case scenario. If you are in a home where the children who you think are yours aren't yours and you're dealing with a problematic wife, I think that's definitely a hostile environment where things can happen. Not to justify those things, but damn, this sounds like a horrible, horrible marriage, especially for that gentleman. Let's keep listening.
Child support?
No. Oh, no. The divorce agreement said no child support on either side. We were both making the same amount of money. So to this day, neither of us pays child support. But no, he got them. I didn't want to necessarily keep it quiet. I didn't want to break his heart, is what it is. No matter how mean he was to me.
Oh, here we go.
I don't use that as an excuse for what I did, because there's not an excuse, And I carry a lot of guilt with me about it. And I got my babies. I mean, they're the greatest things in the whole world, but
How did he find out?
he did the paternity test, and the paternity test came back. He was 99% like not the father.
Wow.
And he called me and he was like, "Do you want to get in front of this?" I said, "Get in front of what? What do you mean?" And about an hour later, he had posted publicly on Facebook that he was not the father of the children.
Man was hurt.
Kids?
2.
How old were they?
5 at the time, 4 and 2. 4 and 2. And they still know him to be their only father. And he still treats them as if he's the only father.
So he's still in their lives?
Oh, yeah.
It's very nice of him.
If that's what you want to call it.
What a mean guy. What a terrible human being, if that's what you want to call it. What a horrible person. Still taking care of kids that are not his. You lied to him. This is paternity fraud. Notice how when she exposes herself as not being an angel herself, she goes back to how mean her ex-husband was. All that is done on purpose, if you ask me. This is crazy. Let's keep listening.
I call it control, but nice is not a word that people often use for this man. Anything he can do to not essentially let go of me and to kind of continue to control my life is what I think to be the reason. He sees him once a week, takes him every other weekend, maybe not even the whole weekend.
So it's an ugly divorce.
It was ugly. It went on for about 7 or 8 months.
If you think of just how easy it is for attorneys and women to gain custody of children, to set men up if he actually did put hands on it. I'm talking about when it comes to evidence in court here. Yes, I wasn't there. But if she actually felt like she was in a situation where she was being manipulated by her ex and he doesn't really care about those kids and he's just using the kids to control her, then she could bring that proof to the court and they would stop him from being able to see those children, especially because they're not even his in the first place. Drink the coffee.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
But I get it.
I don't drink coffee.
You guys get what I'm trying to say. Comment down below if you're with me so far.
Which I know is not long in most divorces, but I thought it was going to be a cut and dry, quick thing. I didn't think he was going to fight me on it. I thought he didn't like me this whole time, but here we are. So he did fight me on pretty much everything I asked for. The divorce ended pretty equal. Nobody got anything crazy. 50-50 with the kids until he ended up unhoused. But yeah, he's still present. He still shows up to parent-teacher conferences. He coached my son's baseball team last summer.
Unhoused. That means homeless. He was homeless and still showing up to parent-teacher conferences. I know this seems like we're watching a horror movie, but maybe this will brighten up your day. It's about time I introduce the sponsor of today's video. And of course, I'm talking about Mac Work. Hey guys, I'm here with a friend of mine, Mac Work. He's a very well-known lifestyle specialist and fitness coach here in the Los Angeles area. Guys, I wouldn't bring somebody here who I haven't already vetted myself. He's changed many people's lives, including my own, when he helped me lose over 60 pounds in 4 months. I know what you're thinking. It sounds way too... They don't believe me, bro.
Nah. I know. When you said it,
Good thing I brought the receipts. Good thing I brought the facts. You guys can see, if you don't want to take my word for it, because I have my pictures here on the screen, he has you have so many of those before and after photos. But don't just take my word for it, man. Take a look at these insane before and after photos. The first time I stumbled on your IG page, I think it was like 2021. I was looking at these photos and I thought all of them were fake. I was just like, no, he's doing something here with these like photos, Photoshop. Do you Photoshop any of these photos? Could you let the people know?
No, sir. We don't Photoshop. We tag and we make sure that it's the real person there so that if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask them.
Could you explain to the people real quick, Mac, what comes with the online program is what I really want to highlight here. The online fitness program.
Well, the thing I think that is most important is that it's not just a program. You actually have access to me. The program comes with meal planning. It comes with weekly check-ins so that we're looking at your progress week to week, you know, before and after pictures. And as I mentioned at the beginning, being able to text me, being able to have that communication is very, very important to build the rapport. And then, of course, weekly workouts where you can do the workouts on your own time because everybody's schedule is different. So that's the beauty of the program. Keep it very simple. And, you know, we make sure that we get the results. Even if they sound a little crazy, right?
A lot of people may think like the online training thing isn't as effective as working with somebody one-on-one, but it's 2023, man. Get on this, capitalize on this, man. I brought him on here for a reason, to help you like he's helped me, guys. Make sure you hit that link pinned to the top of the comment and sign up with Mac Work. He will change your life. He's changed mine. I appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
So he's still as involved as he wants to be.
And you would prefer that was not the case, or?
Good question.
Unfortunately, he doesn't like to pick, this is going to sound bad about me, but he doesn't like to pick the best women. And I do feel that one day there will come a woman who doesn't necessarily want him to raise children who aren't his. I hope that doesn't happen. But if that does happen, I will have wished he had made the move sooner.
Did you premeditate this, or just all of a sudden you found out you were pregnant by somebody you were cheating with?
There's so much to break down in here. You guys better accept that I'm just going to I'm just cutting this video up. He asked her if you would rather he's not in the children's lives. She responds by saying if he was to run into a woman who would demand that he stops being a part of the children's lives, I would rather he was just never involved at all. As in, just stop now. It sounds like she's the one who's being manipulative, if you ask me. It sounds like she wants the benefit of having him in their lives, and she would like to control just how much he's involved in the kid's life and doesn't want any other woman, doesn't want her ex-husband to be with any other woman when she was letting other men bust her cheeks. Viciously, senselessly, disrespectfully, she belongs to the streets.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Mercy.
Oh, no, it was definitely not premeditated, but we weren't using protection.
So it was premeditated.
I didn't say, like, I'm going to have sex with this man to have a baby, you know? But I mean, I guess there was nothing done to prevent it. And the first man that I had the affair with is now my boyfriend, the father of my first child, my son. And he was my husband's assistant manager at the time.
This gets messy.
Dog.
It's very, it's very messy.
Man.
So my ex-husband brought him onto the team where he was working. And my ex-husband always made his assistant managers like his best friend. So he started bringing this guy around, and I made the first move, of course. And I feel like I just sensed his kindness. I mean, still to this day, this man that I'm with is the kindest, most patient man I've ever met. So I think I felt that kindness from him, which I wasn't getting from my husband at the time.
I'm trying to figure out why she thinks this new guy is so kind when he was betraying his best friend. He's the nice guy. That's the guy who you think is being the nice guy. Let's hear the justification for this shit. This is wild. By the way, man, to you men who like bring your friends around your woman, you know, having her be part of the guys. I've talked about this a lot in other videos. Your woman is your woman first, not part of the guys, not part of the homies. Drink the coffee. Let's keep listening.
So I don't even know.
Let me say this. It doesn't mean she can't hang out with your male friends and you guys can't do things like that. But I'm purposefully saying this type of situation of bringing men around your woman all the time on a consistent basis, and she's, you know, one of the dudes, and it just doesn't work out well, man. It just doesn't.
How it started beyond me just touching his hand when we were smoking joints. But one day he came over my house without my ex-husband there, and
busted
you know what
the
happened
cheeks.
next. And we only saw each other once a week to do this because of how my schedule, my ex-husband's schedule, and his schedule
Only
matched up.
She wanted more.
Every Wednesday, I saw him. We had sex. He watched me get ready for work, and then he'd go work for my ex-husband.
This is the nice guy. This is the most kind man she's ever run into. Comes to your house, bro, where your wife is at, beats her cheeks down, lays in your bed, drinking some tea. Maybe, nah, he's drinking some tea. While she's getting ready for work, you in your bedroom, bro. I need more buttons for this shit.
You think you're better than everybody in a coffee shop?
Insane. The pain. The pain.
Yeah. So that's how that one started. And again, I mean, my son is just the best human ever. So I don't regret it. And I'm with him now. And he's just my absolute soulmate.
I don't regret it.
I haven't cheated on him. But the second affair, the man is the father of my daughter, he actually worked with me this time.
The second
he was
affair.
My maintenance guy at my leasing job. And again, just another kind man who was nice to me.
What? All these kind men coming through to clap the cheeks. If that's her like standard of kind, there's a whole lot of kind brothers here on the coffee pod, right? She's like, yeah, another kind man just coming by. Beat it down. This chick's nuts, bro.
And I would see him a lot more because we worked together. So we would take our lunches together and have sex then. And when I found out I was pregnant with my son, we were 100% sure it was my husband's, even though I was having an affair, because I don't know, I just always felt like I could sense when I got pregnant, which obviously isn't right, but I just felt it. So we were so sure. And then he came out looking like my boyfriend now. Spitting image. So there were some questions at the beginning there. But still, you have to be really sure about that to confront your wife. You know, you got to be real sure. So he didn't. People questioned what he looked like to him, and he just said no. And then with my daughter, she's Hispanic. So she came out a little more tan than the both of us. And just as she grew up, just kept that tan skin. And still, she looks so much like me. He was just like, yep, she looks like my wife. And now.
Yo, what's up with that? What's up with my man? And I'm talking about the ex-husband. Guys, sometimes you do have to listen to the people around you. You know what it is? And guys, you may not actually believe what I'm about to say. Some of you really are so involved in certain communities online that delve deeply into topics like this. You know, male, female nature. You hear people that drink coffee all the time. But the vast majority of men out there live in fairy tale land, where their wife, their woman can never. She doesn't even think like that. She's not like that, bro. What? From the back? She never lets me hit it from the back. She says she doesn't like it. She doesn't suck that thing or do those things. Every woman is capable. When I say that, I mean every woman who lacks discipline, just like every man, because you've been convinced that every man's a dog. But you are not believing that the same goes for women who have been sexually liberated and haven't put walls, lines that they won't cross. Now, of course, chicks like this is an extreme example of that. What I'm trying to say, it's like the video of the wife who's I think her husband asked her, like, could you cheat on me? And she says, yes, I could, but I won't because I don't put myself in certain situations, etc. But guys are out here living in a fairy tale. They're munching on those blue pills. They do not see the possibility of this may not be my kid. Because I believe that man actually believed that. He chose to believe that, regardless of what he saw. It sounded like a melanated baby popped out of this chick, and he looked at it and said, yep, that's mine. Be careful. Let's keep watching.
Oh, she looks like her dad, which is terrifying. But again, I love her crazy too. But
do you have regrets about anything you've done?
I wouldn't say regrets because I got my babies. So I definitely am not going to say that I regret it.
She's trying to avoid accountability. She's trying everything to avoid saying I was wrong. You can say I regret the decisions I made, even with having children. A lot of single mothers are this way. They don't even want to accept accountability because that would mean my daughter and them were a mistake. Maybe them in the way that they were brought into the world was a mistake. Doesn't mean that that child is a mistake itself. But could you have gone about it in a healthier way? Yes, you could have divorced your husband. What's worse than divorce? This is.
Wish I would have gone about it differently, maybe. Or maybe picked a second different baby daddy. I don't know. Because I didn't even want to. I didn't even think he was going to be my baby daddy. And here we are.
Oh, she's crazy.
3 baby daddies and 2 kids is what I joke about. So yeah, it's been wild.
Emotionally, what is?
I'd say yeah.
I mean, you're putting other people through emotions that they never.
Yeah, my ex-husband's family cut him off once he decided to claim the children. They didn't like that, and they threatened to sue me with fraud because of what they had bought in the children. And then, I mean, of course,
His family knew.
I took away my ex-husband's whole life in one swift. Whoosh, you know, house, wife, kids. So I think the craziest part is just the guilt that I always feel, like every day. And if I think about it, I cry.
With no tears, by the way. With no tears.
And I've gotten called a lot of names. And I get it. I do. But it's like I've called myself those names more than anybody else has.
You're harder on yourself than everyone else.
Absolutely. And I mean, and my mom used to say, the people who love you. Like, they're not going to judge you. And I know that. I mean, everybody who loves me has been so supportive and so amazing. But I judge me.
Was there a little bit of revenge or satisfaction in what you did?
No. I mean, my babies, I guess, would be the satisfaction. But no, I mean, it didn't even make me feel better because he was never any nicer to me.
What?
He still treated me like crap, you know? And still, no matter how he treated me, I still feel like this about what I did to him. Because it sucks. I ripped his whole life away in one document.
Yeah, that would be a horrible thing to go through.
You know? And it's like, I didn't come out unscathed. I mean, he was mean the whole process, but my life wasn't ruined.
Was he supposed to be nice the whole process? I am no longer looking at this as an, interesting video to look over. I think I'm looking at somebody who needs some serious mental help. Where are you guys at right now? Comment down below. What do you guys think? Let's keep watching.
My whole life wasn't taken away from me. So I always feel worse about what I did to him than anything. That's what gets me every day.
What was the hardest part of the marriage for you?
My treatment, the way I was treated, and the fact that my dad was never very kind to my mom.
I wonder what she's about to wipe off her face when we haven't seen one teardrop. Oh, she's about to fake wipe, of course.
And I won't use that as an excuse. But so therefore, I feel like I kind of let men treat me terribly my whole life. I mean, now I'm a bad and I'll rock your shit. But I let men treat me bad my whole life. I always joke that I grew up around mean men my whole life. So now I know how to handle them. And what the final straw was for me with my ex was he physically assaulted me in front of the children. And my son had to use a plastic sword to hit his dad and get him off me. And my son's 5 now. This was a year and a half, 2 years ago. And he still brings it up. He still talks to me about it. So I think the hardest part was the treatment and allowing my children to see the way I was treated, because they hadn't watched me get good love the first 4 or 5 years of their life. So that was the hardest part, because I don't want my daughter to do what I did. I want both my kids to be treated respectfully and kindly, and they see that now. But
with who?
But your relationship with your father was
tumultuous.
Tumultuous?
Yeah. I was a daddy's girl until I could form my own opinions, I say. Once everything daddy said wasn't right and wasn't true, that's kind of when I don't want to say didn't care.
Okay, yeah. So now that I've gotten more context to her personality and what she's capable of, I'm translating everything she's saying through the filtration of coffee, right? So when she says my dad stopped basically effing with me as soon as I started to form my own opinions, it's probably things like, hey, you probably shouldn't let any guy sleep with you. Don't be a 304. I raised you better than this. And she would think, well, why should you judge a woman for such and such? Dad, blah, 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 blah. And as soon as you realize it, she might have been a hopeless case unless something drastic happened. He said, I'm not going to sit around and watch this shit show, and distance himself from his daughter. What do you guys think? Because that's what it sounds like happened. What opinions can someone with her mindset here who cannot accept accountability form that are healthy? So far, the opinions that we've heard are extremely toxic. Let's keep listening.
He just stopped being so present in my life. And he would make comments about my weight, and I got an eating just he wasn't a nice man. And I know that's where I get wanting kindness so bad. He was never a nice man. But now he's older. I mean, and I gave him the boy he always wanted, so he's kinder. But I still can't cry in front of him. Tears are a big trigger for him. And now tears are a trigger for me when my kids cry, even though I cry.
Do you use your tears to manipulate, maybe? Is that what it is?
Every day when my kids cry, I lose it. I just can't handle listening to someone cry. Even myself. But like I said, now we're good. I mean, I see him 3-4 times a year. He loves my kids to death. And my stepmom's great. I didn't like her my whole life, but now that I'm older, I can see that she was just doing what was best for everyone involved. My dad, mainly. He's a better person because of her, for sure.
What are you proudest of in your life?
Surviving.
Oh my gosh.
Just being able to wake up this morning and come here, I had a couple attempts, just because life is wild. And when you're a drug addict, sometimes that's all you can see as an escape. But I survived it. So obviously I'm supposed to be here or whatever. And now I know it's because I was put on this earth to be a mom to my children. But you never know what your purpose is. And
I was put on this earth to be a mom to my children. I feel really bad for those kids, man. That's unfortunate. I'm being dead honest right now. You don't get to choose your parents. What I've seen so far is those kids are going to suffer because of her inability to drink coffee, number one, take accountability over her life, her whole vantage point on how she views her ex and the last relationship. It makes you think, wow, how will she treat her children if she sees herself as the victim and hasn't really shown any true sense of like deep sympathy for her ex-husband? And also we haven't really heard much about what she thinks this would do to her kids, but I wouldn't be surprised if she thinks this is the way it was supposed to happen. That's what I'm getting here. I'm blown away.
Until you get there, and then you're still unsure, So I say I'm alive for my kids because they're the best people I've ever met.
Are the children confused about who their fathers are?
No, because they've only known him. They've only known my ex as their father.
No, but the son who is actually your boyfriend is the actual father, but your ex-husband is his original father.
Yes.
That's confusing for him, right?
I feel like children are smarter than we think they are.
Oh my gosh.
So
Bro, I feel like children are smarter than we think they are. Children are not smarter than we think they are. This is that new woke thinking of let children make decisions for themselves. Are you smarter now than when you were 8, 6, 7 years old? I hope so. Children are not smarter than we think they are. Children take on more trauma during early stages of life than we actually understand. And because of that, I feel bad for these kids. This is their mother. Wow.
I believe that my son can just almost feel it. You know, they look identical. They're twins, body build, face, hair, everything. Just the same person in different bodies. And I know he's going to start asking questions probably here soon because he knows they look alike. And, you know, Austin's so amazing to him and just so kind and patient, even with my crazy daughter. So I feel like he feels something. You know, he knows what, now he knows what
Feelings. That's what she's basing this on. Her son's going to feel her way through the trauma that she's about to put him through.
good love looks like. And I do believe he'll start asking questions. And a part of me thinks he'll be relieved to find out. But no child will even find out until my ex and I both decide that it's time.
So your son is older than your daughter?
He is. He's 5.
So you had the relationship with your boyfriend, and then you
Yeah.
had another relationship.
I did. So I had a relationship with my boyfriend about 6 years ago. And then once I got pregnant, we actually kind of stopped communicating. He moved away. And then I had the baby. And he brought his girlfriend to my house to meet, unknowingly, our child, me and my ex-husband. And I wasn't super kind to her because I think maybe I knew, and I didn't like the guy that I had loved at one point bringing another woman in my house, even though I was living with another man. So he did meet Coda right when he was born. And then he kind of disappeared again when he was still living out of town. And he was still following me on social medias, which I didn't know. And my ex was like, you know, he's still looking at my stories. And I'm like, if he's looking at your stories, he's looking at my stories. And so that's how I reconnected with him once the divorce happened, was I just reached out to him on social media.
What's that saying is women, know the guy that's going to replace you if they're headed towards like breakup or divorce or something like that. I forget it. But it's basically a theory some would call a fact because, they believe in it so much that when men leave relationships, they're kind of just like, okay, well, back into the dating market I go. But when women leave a relationship, they have guys lined up, potentials. She never truly leaves until she found your replacement.
Trouble.
I'm not anymore. I used to be.
He called
What's
it trouble.
I'm madly in love with him. And he's kind and patient and everything I could have ever imagined the father of my children to be. And he's one of those guys that when you get him, you can't let him go. Because someone else will get him. And then you're going to be mad. He's just the greatest human. Just amazing. So, I mean, I kind of knew up until him and I got back together that he was always my soulmate. And he is. I do believe that to this day.
Soulmates don't exist. They do not exist. And people who think this way are more liable to leave marriages, relationships, based on the sure fact they've convinced themselves like, oh, that's my soulmate. That is the person who God made me for. There are plenty of people who God made you for, made you compatible with. You get to choose the type of shit you want to deal with in this life. That's what it really comes down to. Every person has problems. Hopefully, you don't have these problems that this ex-husband had with a woman like this.
And here he is, just in my life again. So I'm happy and I'm not trouble anymore. I'm good to him for the most part.
You sure?
Yes, I'm positive. I do. I can't mess this one up. My ex-husband sucked, but this one's a good one. So I won't mess this one up.
To sit here and say your ex-husband sucked when he has been present in your children's lives takes some sort of mental, there's something that's not right up there. I'm not a psychologist here, guys. Just social commenting on issues and serving up coffee. That's what we do.
After going through all of this, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in all of this?
To find the right one for you. If you stay 10 years in a marriage that isn't the right one, then you're just going to live miserably your whole life or end up doing what I did. And I feel like if you're truly happy and if they treat you how you deserve to be treated and, you know, you treat them the same, I feel like that's the biggest thing, is just finding the right one. And I was very young and newly clean when I had met my ex-husband, so I was in a very vulnerable state. And so now being clean, I was clean 5 months when I met him. Now being clean 12 years and building up my backbone again and becoming the person I was always supposed to be, really opened up the doors for me to finally be able to be in a healthy relationship. And this is the healthiest one I've ever been in. It's weird. It feels funny, but we're doing it.
I hope it lasts.
I do too.
For the kids' sake.
I do too.
All right. Kira, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Mark, thanks for having me.
And one last thing, she brings up like her background, and I know that played a role. We can't sit here and act like it didn't play a role in her life. I mean, who would I be? Who would you be if both of you parents were out there dealing drugs? Fair point, right? But I don't think she brings this stuff up. Her background. I don't think she brings this stuff up to be like, yeah, and you know, I went through these things and I overcame them. I think it's more like, what would make me look, what would justify my behaviors in this moment? That's what I got from that. Including her talking about her husband supposedly putting hands on her, etc. Because after being clean for years on end, as long as she has, makes me think it wasn't the drugs that were changing the way that she thought. This is who she is. This is how she sees the world. As always, we're going to check out some of these comments, see what the people have to say. First comment here comes from a woman. Again, shout out to Soft White Underbelly. This woman says, I would really like to see another interview of an unfaithful wife. Well, we've got a lot over here on the coffee pot. Goes on to say, everyone is so different. So I'm sure there's another woman out there with an entirely different view on the impact of her decisions. So this was followed by other women who chimed in, like this woman who says, me too, Mark. And somebody else says, I would like to see more interviews with men who don't take care of their children. Keep in mind, this was a thread. And when I saw this third comment in this thread of comments of this woman saying, oh, show men who are out here not taking care of their children, I think this woman said this out of the reaction of something this society really does not like to see, and that's women painted in a bad light. It makes people uncomfortable to interview an unfaithful wife. It makes people uncomfortable. Why? Because you've been told that men cheat, but women don't, or men cheat far more than women do. When the truth is, women are steadily catching up as far as like what you see in the stats to men when it comes to infidelity. And then you got to think, how many of those women are just like, hell no, I'm going to take this lie to the grave? How many of them are just going to avoid taking that pull at all? Goes on to say, because there are way more of those around. She's talking about men who don't take care of their children, and society is way more impacted by it too. I would actually argue and say, I think there are way more women leaving marriages. Like if you add up the women who control access to their body, my choice, right? They control who gets to hit, busted cheeks. And then they decide to carry before they marry. They're creating single homes. And then you have, on top of that, the women who leave marriages because they're not happy and fulfilled. They create single homes. It would seem to me that there are more of those cases than they are men out here who are just like, nah, I don't want to take care of my kids. Goes on to say more so in the economic point of things, because raising children with one income is hard, especially in a setup like the U.S. Very true. Somebody else here says, same thing I was thinking the entire time. I was watching this. I kept hoping for a moment of genuine introspection and accountability instead of flippant pride and blame shifting. I pray for the mental health of her children, especially her daughter. These chicks on this thread are uncomfortable with what they've seen. Another man here says, yeah, it's a really interesting point of view because people just say they're a bad person and close the book. The end. We've got another comment here that says, not every person who can make children should be a parent. People like this lady are the reason why kids grow up with mental problems and have a hard time in life. Something you should know, especially if you're somebody who's taking care of children or plans to have children, is just how important a child's early upbringing affects the type of mental state they will have to deal with in the future. You want to make sure that you're creating an environment for your child to thrive, that you're not creating an environment of trauma. Because for a lot of people, they can only learn to cope with trauma. Very few people are able to completely rid themselves of that trauma. Somebody else here says there appears to be real effects from childhood trauma, her parents getting arrested in front of her, and house being raided. Even her voice, clothing, and mannerisms sound like a small child who is stuck in that time. Nearly every one of these videos shows what trauma does to people. Thank you for sharing and creating these videos. Somebody else here says, I agree with you. Somebody else here says, or she's just a narcissist.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
What do you guys think? I do also want to mention, like, picture this being a man who was putting his hands on a woman and was abusing that woman in that way. Because at the end of the day, there's emotional abuse. It's all abuse. And that man sat there and showed no sympathy and said, you know, actually, I don't regret some of these things I did. Or I don't regret how I treated my ex-wife. We would all sit there and be like, yeah, this guy's kind of a piece of shit. But when it comes to calling out a lot of chicks and modern women today, people are a lot more apprehensive. Another person who says this woman is the textbook definition of a psychopath. It really is sad the way that she simply does not care how drastically she has negatively impacted the lives of others. I appreciate your other interviews, and I can even respect some of the people you interview with checkered past because they have the ability to show remorse for what they've done, or they live their life in such a fashion where they don't permanently emotionally scar the ones that love them the most. She makes me sick, especially the thought that there are others like her. Somebody else here says, this is the kind of energy I distance myself from. I worked with a woman quite similar to this, toxic, manipulative, and terrifyingly unhinged. Kiara is a real piece of work. Whoa, I agree with you right there. Somebody else here says, I've been caught up with people like her before. I'd never realized the true destruction they can cause until this video. As grueling as it was to listen to her, I noticed a lot of warning signs. In parentheses, it says, as obvious as they are. And I think this interview holds up to a lot of life lessons your videos convey. Mark, great job. So Mark is the guy who runs Soft White Underbelly. Here's somebody else who says, as a single father of two, I'm absolutely disgusted to find she allowed her ex-husband to believe those two children were his for 4 years. Then turn around to say he is controlling. For real? She's toxic, borderline narcissist. I tend not to judge, he says, but in this case, I cannot stomach the thought if I was in this predicament as the ex-husband. No wonder he's not nice to you. Somebody else here added, it's ironic how she immensely explained how mean her ex-husband was to her, as if she herself is a kind person or would think that she would attempt to be a kind person in a position of such. But she goes on to explain how she was mean and unkind to the biological father's girlfriend when they visited his unknown child. Makes me believe she is actually the mean person through all of this. This is followed by another comment that says she paints the ex-husband as so horrible, but also says he was homeless or unhoused and still came to the parent-teacher conferences. I caught that too. I was like, this is crazy. And coached the kids' ball team. Did he? Okay, I missed that one. Wow. And is still involved with the kids despite the fact they aren't his. He obviously cares deeply for the children and knows there is no hope with this woman. Final comment here says, a relationship with this woman is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. This is pure horror. Guys, As always, I'm curious to know, what do you think? Leave your comments down below. Listen, I appreciate you, as always, for checking out another episode of The Coffee Pot. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.